Hi, this is Gavin Stone from Authentic Human, and today I'm going to show you how to make a great chili. This is pretty much a paleo chili, and we've got a whole lot of different textures and flavors that we're going to add into it. It's actually really simple to make. We're going to prepare it now. It's around lunchtime, and we're going to have a really great dinner tonight. So let's take a look at our ingredients. We've got grass-fed organic beef here. We've got two kinds. We've got cubed beef, and we've got ground beef. That's going to give you a nice contrasting texture, and to give it a really good kick of flavor, we've got some bacon, which we're going to start off with. And then as far as the veggies go, we've got a couple of onions, we got a nice red bell pepper, we've got a couple of nice big tomatoes, we've got some garlic. We're going to add in 3 or 4 cloves of that, and we've got some bay leaves. Then on the spices, we've got 2 teaspoons of coriander, 2 teaspoons of paprika, 1 teaspoon of cumin, and about half a teaspoon of ground chipotle pepper. You can add that up to a teaspoon or more depending on how hot you want to make your chili. I'm making it family friendly, so it's about half a teaspoon of the nice hot spice there. And to round off the seasonings, we've got some everyday seasoning from Trader Joe's. It's a blend from South Africa that's got coriander and black pepper and paprika and a whole lot of other great spices in. And we've also got some smoke seasoning, again also from Trader Joe's, that it is a very nicely smoked paprika, and it's quite coarse. It gives you a very nice smoke aroma and smoke flavor that's going to really add a lot of depth to the chili. We're also going to add in a couple of tablespoons of organic barbecue sauce just to kick up that smoky flavor, give it a tiny little bit of a sweet tang to it. And I've got some organic pureed tomatoes that is going to just thicken up that sauce. So we've got our sturdy and trusty Dutch oven here that I'm going to use. You can use any kind of pot. We're going to just cook this on top of the stove today. We're not actually going to put it into the oven, so it doesn't have to be stove to oven safe. I just like using my Dutch oven. So preheated that. I'm going to come over here and we're just going to chop up our bacon. So we're just going to chop up the bacon into about 1-inch pieces. It's a nice thick cut bacon, and we're just going to drop this into our pan. I'll just add in a touch of olive oil first, so that it doesn't stick. It's going to generate a whole lot of its own fat, so we don't need too much of olive oil in there. I'll put this in. We're just going to let that brown, do maybe 5 or so minutes. We don't want to cook it too crispy. So after 5 or 6 minutes, the bacon has rendered the fat out quite nicely. It's not too crispy yet. We don't want it overly crisp, so we're just going to take it out with our slotted spoon, and we're going to leave the bacon fat in there that we're going to use to fry up our cubed beef. We're just going to set this aside. We're going to throw it back in a couple of minutes, but we just want to get our cubed beef nice and browned without getting our bacon overly crispy. If it's overly crispy, it's going to have a bit of a weird texture in the chili when you're eating it at the end, so we're just going to keep it a little bit moist, but what we really want is that nice bacon fat. We're just going to add in the cubed beef now. So while our meat is browning, we're just going to chop up some of our onions and our garlic. And we're going to put that in and let that caramelize while the meat finishes to brown. Once we finish that, then we'll put in the ground beef, get that a little bit brown before we add in the rest of our veggies. So you just want to take your onions, halve it. Doesn't have to be too fine. We're just going to give it a rough chop here. And we do the same for our other onion. Cut it in half, take the outer layer off. Out to 2 layers if the outer layer doesn't give you a nice looking onion, and then you just cut not all the way through. Try and leave about 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch at the end so that it holds it in place. And you just run your knife through until you get to that last layer, and then you just chop that up. Same thing here. Just run your knife through. You're leaving a little bit at the end, which holds it together. Turn it on its side, and then you just run your knife through till the last little piece, and then you just slice that up. Okay, I'm going to check on the beef, turn it around, make sure it's all nice and brown on all sides, and then we're going to add the onion in. So now we're going to add in some garlic. I've got 3 cloves here. What we're going to do is we're just going to give them a little tap. You don't want to give it too much of a tap that you smash the garlic clove into oblivion. You just want to give it a tap so that you're breaking that shell that goes around it, this hard husk. And what that tap does is it allows you to just remove that very easily. That clove isn't that good, so we're just going to choose another one. Again, give it a tap, breaks that shell, and lets you just take it off quite nice and easily like that. Once you've removed all of the outside, what you're going to do is you're just going to take your knife, chop the clove in half, hold it back together, hand and a claw, and now you're just going to run your knife through and you're just going to dice it up into nice fine pieces. Same here. And again with the last one, you don't have to go too fine here because we're going to be cooking this for a long time, so that's going to melt away. If you want to get it smaller at the end, you just rock your knife back and forth across it like so. One hand on the front, the other hand holding it with your thumb and forefinger guiding the blade, and you just rock back and forth until you get a nice fine mixture like that. We're going to add the onions and garlic in with the meat now and let them caramelize a little bit. Just going to add that in, mix it around, get the onions and the garlic down to the bottom, get them caramelized a little bit. You can see the meat's nice and brown. You can add a lot of the flavor into the chili. Add the rest of the onions and the garlic. Give it another stir, and we're just going to let that caramelize for maybe 5 minutes on like a medium-high heat, just until the onions start to go a little bit translucent. And at that point we're going to add in our spices. Okay, so while we still got quite a bit of the bacon fat left in the bottom of the pot, we've sauteed our onions up so they're starting to go nice and brown. We're going to add in our spices now so that they can have a little bit of a chance to fry up in their bacon fat and bring out a lot of their flavors. So we're going to add in our half a teaspoon of the chipotle chili powder, a teaspoon of cumin, a couple of teaspoons of the paprika, and a couple of teaspoons of the coriander. And as it hits the pan, you can just smell all those flavors coming out. Start smelling like chili already. We're just going to give it a stir so we can get all those spices coated in the bacon fat down at the bottom of the pan, and those flavors and those aromas are just coming out of there like crazy right now. Next we're going to add in our ground beef and mix that around, try and get that a little bit brown, and then we're going to add in the tomatoes and the pepper and finish off with this, and then we'll just let it cook for a couple of hours. So I've added in the ground beef, mixing it in with the onions and the cubed beef so that it can all brown nicely together. And I like using this ground beef with the cubed beef so it can add a lot more texture to it. A lot of recipes only just have the ground beef or just have the cubed beef, but since we're not going to be adding any beans, I like this recipe because it gives you a whole lot more texture in your final product. You're going to have the ground beef, the cubed beef, and the bacon bits. You're not going to miss that. You don't have any beans in this at all. As soon as this is brown, take about 5 minutes. We're going to add in the tomatoes and the peppers. So I've finished mixing it in. I'm just going to leave it, let it continue browning. I'm going to chop up the tomatoes and get those in here. So we're just going to give our tomatoes a rough chop, just down through the middle. We're just going to cut a V into it to get that stem part out. And then all we're going to do, we just chop it through, give it 3 or 4 slices that way, 3 or 4 slices this way. Main thing you want to do is just chop up the skin so that you don't have any extremely long pieces of skin. You can take the skin off if you want. You just blanch the tomato in some boiling water for a few seconds, and you can then peel the skin off. I like having the skin on, especially since we're going to be cooking this for an extended period of time. The skin's going to pretty much cook away completely, but it's up to you. I'm just going to do the same with the other tomato. Cut a V, get rid of the stem, 3-4 slices down, 3-4 slices across, and we got some nice cubed tomato there. The knife I'm using here is a Santoku knife, so you can see it's got these little ridges, so as you cut through, none of the tomato is actually sticking to the knife. You can use a chef's knife, it won't work as well, so it's good to have both the chef's knife and the Santoku knife, especially for cutting up fruit and veggies. The Santoku knife is excellent. So once you've cut your pepper into quarters, it then becomes a lot easier for you to go and remove the seeds. Essentially what you're going to do is you're just going to run your knife down these membranes, pull it apart, and just one slice at the bottom, and you're left with almost a perfect piece of pepper. Same thing here. Tip of the knife down the sides so that it releases it. Knife in, pull it apart, and just chop it off. Same thing with the last piece. Tip of the knife down the sides, release that membrane, knife in behind it, chop it off at the bottom. Now what you can do is flip them over, you just run your knife through, you're going to julienne them, and then chop it up into chunks. Julienne, and then dice. Okay, for the last step, we're just going to add everything else into the pot. We've got our peppers, we've got our tomatoes, a couple of scoops of those. We're going to add our bacon back in. We're just going to give that a quick stir. Just get it all nice and mixed in. We have got our pureed tomatoes, organic pureed tomatoes. It's going to thicken up the sauce nicely. I'm going to add in a couple of tablespoons of organic barbecue sauce. This has got some flavoring with agave nectar, so we're just going to use it sparingly. The main thing that we want here is just to get that nice smoky flavor, which we're also going to add in with the smoke flavoring I told you guys about earlier. The smoke flavoring, my favorite. We're just going to liberally grind some of that in here. We're going to add in some of the everyday seasoning. We're going to add in a couple of pinches of salt, just to balance out the acidity in the tomatoes. We can check later on if we need to add more salt, but for now we're just going to add in a couple of pinches. And don't forget your bay leaves. We're going to throw a couple of those in. We're just going to check the liquid levels on here. I think we might need a little bit of water, so I'm just going to add in about a cup of water to this, bring the liquid levels up, and I'm going to put it on a slow heat and let it cook for probably about 4 hours until dinner time, and it's going to be awesome. So I've added in about a cup of water. It's brought the liquid level up. What you want to look for is just have that liquid level kind of up at the top of where the meat is resting and the veggies are resting. You don't have to add in too much because you're going to get a lot of liquid coming out of the tomatoes and the peppers and out of the meat itself. So by the end of cooking it for 3 or 4 hours, it's going to have reduced slightly down to a nice thick chili, but it's got enough moisture in there so it's not going to stick and it's not going to burn. So we're just going to take it, put it on our smallest burner on the lowest heat, and we're just going to leave it. So I'll see you guys in a few hours and we're going to be ready for a delicious chili. Alright, so it's 4 hours later. We're going to take a look at how our chili is. Looking good. Give it a quick stir. You can see that our meat, our chunks of beef, a cube beef, nice and tender. Haven't broken down yet. The ground beef is nice and tender. We've got some chunky tomato bits in there. The texture looks good. The thickness looks good. This guy is ready. So to go along with this, you can we're doing some rice, you can do some vegetables, or you can just eat it straight up, which I'm going to do now. The other thing I like to do with it is on some potatoes, chili on top of that, or on top of a burger. Any way you like it, chili makes anything better. So let's get some of this in a bowl. I'm going to give it a quick taste. The rest of it we're going to have for dinner when all the guests arrive. But I can't wait. I'm going to have some of this right now. I like to put a little bit of a sprinkle of cheese on top and give this guy a taste. Let's try and get a nice chunky piece of the meat. Get some ground beef. That sure is good. So this has been Gavin Stone from Authentic Human. You can catch me on authentic-human.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Gavin Stone. And if you want to find out more about how to cook food like this, you can come join us down in Cabo San Lucas in Mexico. Over the summer, we're running a seminar there with Nadi from Functional Patterns. Be sure to check that out. You'll probably see the link here on the video. And we'll catch you next week for Functional Food Fridays. Bye for now.